This week, I attempt to speak Italian,
Tutti frutti.
meet a man wearing a very fashionable seatbelt, and discover how many Italians it takes to cut a cake, as I take the first ever flight from Italy to one of America's biggest cities. Well, hello and arrivederci from Rome in Italy, a country that's never had a non-stop flight to one of America's biggest cities. Until today. For decades, that missing route had felt oddly obvious, but until today, nobody had ever flown it. Welcome to Rome Fiumicino Airport, where I'm about to get on the very first ever flight to a city in America that's never had a direct flight from here before. The only question is, why does this flight exist and why is it starting now? Well, to find out, let's go and get checked in. Hi, good morning. Buongiorno. Checking for Houston. I-A-H, yes.
Okay, Los Angeles.
Alright,
That's 34.
okay. At this point, I was becoming mildly concerned I might end up in California. In any case, I headed to the LA check-in desk in the hopes that they might have a better understanding of geography.
Hi, good morning, Houston.
Houston. Or maybe not.
What is the American flag?
Yeah,
Thank you.
All right.
At this point, I was just hoping I had a good chance of ending up somewhere between LA and Amsterdam. But in any case, with boarding passes successfully acquired, I headed towards the USA Flight Security Checkpoint, which unfortunately appeared to have some doubts as to whether Houston was even in America. Eventually though, a man turned up and opened a door to let us go through manually.
Thank you. Grazie, thank you. So we're at Houston, USA.
Okay, prego.
Alright, grazie. Alrighty then, finally through security here at Rome Airport. To say that ITA Airways have been making quite a big deal out of this new flight that they've launched, well, it seems that not many people actually knew that ITA fly to Houston. But we're through in the end. Let's go and get through to a lounge, the ITA Airways lounge here in Rome, and try and decompress a bit before our little flight.
And after successfully proving to Rome Airport that Houston was in fact part of the US, it was time to head to the lounge.
Hi, good morning.
Hi, good morning. Una nuova.
Thank you.
Alrighty then, made it to the lounge here in Rome. Look who I found in the lounge. It's a Rachel. And where are you headed today?
I'm heading to Houston. Where are you heading?
I'm also headed to Houston. What a surprise! Seeing as though that is the place that we both live. Houston is a place, by the way, that's never been served non-stop by any airline to Italy, which is surprising because it's a huge city. But we're here. We're going to be on the very first one. Are you excited?
I am very.
Alrighty then, we have made it to the gate. There is cake. Nice. And a nice picture of Houston there. I don't think I've ever seen that nice bit of Houston before. But anyway, we're here, about to get on the flight. How excited are you, Miss Rachel?
Yay! Super happy.
We're going home non-stop.
Yes.
Non-stop from Italy to Houston.
Long
A long flight, yes. 12 hours, 20 minutes today, all the way back to Bush in Houston. Well, I would say let's go and get on board, but I think they might be doing something first, so let's see.
Unfortunately, before we could go anywhere, Italy had assembled several important-looking people with microphones.
Sicuramente, come diceva il dottor Calderoni,
Grazie all'ambasciata americana, è un onore davvero per noi negli Stati Uniti, mercato per noi importantissimo e poi ovviamente da soli non possiamo volare. Allora in questo momento c'è il problema della chiusura degli alcuni aeroporti, vedasi Tel Aviv, Riyadh e Dubai, ed è un primo tema. Un secondo tema è la chiusura degli spazi aerei che ci portano ad allungare.
And with the speeches finally concluded, it was time to discover exactly how many Italians it takes to cut a ribbon. Before immediately finding out how many Italians it takes to cut a cake. The answer's 2. Anyway, with that, it was time to get on board. I do have to say the ITA Airways livery is one of my favourites in the entire world. It just looks stunning.
Hello. Good morning. Thank you.
On your left and enjoy
All right.
your flight.
Grazie, thank you.
Good morning.
I was struggling to remember what ITA's business class cabin looks like on the A330neo, but it didn't take me long to find out. It is super smart, beautiful white seats with dark blue accents. All very Italian. Alrighty then, welcome on board the ITA Airways A330neo. I've been on one of these before a while ago, but not on an event as exciting as this, as we're about to spend 12.5 hours heading all the way across to Houston, a place that's never been flown to before by ITA Airways, or in fact by anybody from Italy. Such a vibe at the gate there. Look at this seat, it's so nice. I don't remember ITA being this nice. But look at this, it's beautiful. We've got a little storage cupboard, we've got water, we've got wellness stuff down here, we've got a melody kit at the side, and then we've got a reach in front of us as well. Hello, what do you think to the seat?
I'm just busy looking around.
It'll take you a while. And in true Italian fashion, we eventually departed the gate around 45 minutes late. But that didn't really matter because today this flight was making history. Although down on the ramp, history appeared to be fighting back slightly. The route today then took us north out of Italy, crossing Europe and the UK before coasting out across the Atlantic. We then coasted in over Canada and flew down over Chicago towards Houston with a flight time today of 11 hours and 54 minutes, cruising at 38,000 feet. So there we go then, airborne from Rome, making history on board the first ever non-stop commercial flight from Italy to Houston. 12 hours to go. Let's get back across the Atlantic. And as we crossed out over the Italian coastline and headed west towards America, it's slightly strange to think just how many systems, airports and companies already knew exactly where we were going. Because every time you travel internationally, your personal information gets shared across dozens of different systems behind the scenes. Because to take one flight from Rome to Houston, my data's ended up with the airline, the airport, booking systems, security systems, probably several people at Rome Airport still trying to work out where Houston is. And online, to be honest, it gets even worse. Data brokers collect your information, things like your name, phone number, address and browsing activity, and then sell it to other companies completely behind the scenes. That's why you suddenly start getting spam calls, targeted ads, scam emails and all sorts of random nonsense over the internet. And that's why I use Incogni. You see, Incogni automatically contacts data brokers on your behalf and requests the removal of your personal information from their databases. Instead of manually chasing dozens of companies yourself, Incogni handles the legal requests and follow-ups for you automatically. One feature I really like is the custom removal tool, because if you find a specific website with your information listed online, you can send it directly to Incogni and they'll request the removal for you as well. So if you'd like to take back a bit more control over your personal data online, click the link in the description below and use my code Noel Phillips for an exclusive discount on an Incogni plan. Because honestly, in 2026, your data probably travels more than I do. And with that, Italy and Houston were finally connected for the very first time, which sounds slightly ridiculous when you think about it. One of America's biggest international cities connected non-stop to London, Paris, Frankfurt, Amsterdam, Istanbul and beyond, but never Italy until now. And the reason this route exists now really comes down to one thing. Carbonara, amazing. Big question is though, why hasn't this flight existed before now? You see, there's many reasons for that, really. The main one really being that ITA weren't really in a position where they could start sending planes all over the world. That all changed though, because they got bought out by Lufthansa. Lufthansa are in Star Alliance, and of course by being bought out by Lufthansa, it meant that ITA could also become a member of Star Alliance. You see, Star Alliance opens up things massively for ITA Airways, because now They've got the ability to fly and connect in with a bunch of other airlines that they never were able to connect with before. One big one of those being United, who of course have a massive base at Houston. And with a link up in the Star Alliance, it allows ITA now to be able to sell flights connecting onto United flights all over America. Ooh, just crossing the English Channel. But airline alliances and corporate mergers only tell part of the story, because right now there's another reason airlines are racing to expand across the Atlantic. The thing is, the World Cup is starting soon. Now, the World Cup's a big football tournament, or that's soccer to anybody in America, that is coming to America very, very soon. And Houston is actually a host city of the World Cup, as well as other cities from Mexico City upwards all the way across North America. Now, the Italians do love their football, and it's fair to say a lot of them will be coming over to America to watch the Italians play football, and probably other countries as well. Apparently they're very good at it. I'm not a football fan, I don't know. So of course everybody wants to go over and see the World Cup. It's a great opportunity for them to start this route really and test the water while there is a lot of demand there for people going over to watch the World Cup. And with a bit of luck, it might stick after this year. But while events like the World Cup may help launch a route, long-term success is usually decided by something much less glamorous. Connections. You see, though, connections across America are one thing, but connections across Europe are something entirely different. Right at this moment in time, if you want to connect to a lot of places in Europe, you've got to fly on Lufthansa. I don't enjoy flying on them that much, and I try to avoid connecting through Frankfurt wherever I can. But now, with a direct link into Europe on Star Alliance with ITA, that opens up a whole world of other destinations across Europe and even further afield as well. And that's in addition to the connections that we get into Italy. From Houston now, it's possible to fly all across Europe and never have to take a connection on Lufthansa, which in my view is a bit of a win. And several hours later, after crossing Europe, the Atlantic and the frozen coastline of eastern Canada, we finally reached North America. And somewhere over the middle of the continent, the excitement surrounding this inaugural flight started to give way to a much bigger question. Would this route actually last? My only thing, thinking about this flight, this is amazing. It's great to have a non-stop flight into Houston from Italy. How long is it going to last? Is my question. I'd like to think a long time. I'd like to think it's going to be a stalwart of Houston, just like the KLM flight to Amsterdam and the Air France to Paris, or the Air New Zealand to Auckland. But who knows? This flight today is pretty much half full. There's not many people on it at all. And maybe that's because it's the first flight. Maybe it'll grow. That's my hope. And I really hope people start using this as a means to start connecting across Europe, because I'll tell you what, it's going to make my life, one, so much easier getting to a lot of places. Having another option in the Star Alliance to get across to Europe is going to be awesome. Will it last though, once the World Cup's done? Once Maradona's gone home and Paul Gascoigne's gone back to Leeds or wherever he's from? Will the flight continue? Will this route continue? I don't know. Only time will tell. Maybe we'll look back at this in a year and go, yeah, that was a waste of time. But hopefully we'll look back in a year and think, you know what? We've got an awesome thing here. And after 12 hours crossing the Atlantic, Houston finally appeared beneath the clouds, which in true Houston fashion was extremely wet. It felt strangely fitting, really, though. Back in Rome, there'd been speeches, ceremonies, ribbons, cake, and a great deal of excitement about this historic new route. And yet, on board, if you didn't already know this was the very first flight, you probably wouldn't have even noticed. No big announcements, no celebrations in the cabin, just another flight crossing the Atlantic, which perhaps says quite a lot about modern aviation. But down on the ground in Houston, there was at least some recognition that this route really was something new. For the first time ever, Italy and Houston were connected non-stop.
Arrivederci, grazie.
Thank you. Buongiorno.
Goodbye, thank you.
Mi dice ai piloti
And after all the confusion back in Rome, we had finally made it back to Houston, which we've discovered did still actually exist. For the first time ever, passengers could now fly non-stop between Italy and one of America's biggest cities. The only question now was whether this route would become a permanent part of Houston's skyline or just another brief moment in aviation history. Only time will tell. Alrighty then, welcome back to a very rainy Houston. There we go, a new era has begun. Hopefully, a new era that's going to last a while. But anyway, thanks so much for watching. Take care, and we'll see you on the next one. Bye for now.
Bye.